Hi everybody, welcome back to the Decimal Works channel and back onto the Ducati 1098S service, and today I'm going to be replacing the oil seals, dust seals and oil in the front forks, and that's because I've got a slight leak on the forks. So I'm only going to show you one of the fork legs and what I do to change everything, because it's the same for the other fork leg. I'm also not going to go through the process of how to actually physically remove it and film it. I'll talk you through how I've done it in a second, but I figured it would be better just to focus on doing the oil seals and dust seals on the forks. Okay, let me show you how I got the fork legs out of the bike. Okay, so I have it on an ABBA stand, and that takes the frame at the pinch point where the swing arm axle goes through, so it's pivoted about that point. It's then held up on these straps that are tied to the bench, so it pivots around there, and then all I've done, front wheel out, mudguard off, brake calipers off. They're just resting on these messy little boxes here so that there's no strain on the lines. I should add that the axle stand is here just for emergencies. You see, it's not got any weight on it. It's just in case, say, one of the straps failed or something. It will literally just rest on the oil filter and will stop the bike from toppling over. So it's a little safety measure. And all you do to get the forks out is, let's just turn that so you can see it, 2 bolts on the lower clamp, 1 on the upper clamp, and then 1 on the clip-on. Just pull them out. So I didn't really want to film that because it's a rather simple process to do that. The additional piece you'll have to do on the right hand fork leg is that there is a pipe guide clamp that just needs to be undone as well, so an extra bolt on that side. Okay, so let's talk through what I'm going to do to change dust seal and the oil seal on this fork leg. So the first thing to do will be to record where all the settings are for the bike. So that will be a case of adjusting the compression damping and the rebound damping to find out how many clicks I've got. I'll then back off the preload, measuring how many turns I do that, and then I'll record all those numbers just down on the specification card. Once I've got all the base readings in, we'll take the fork spring cap off, and then I'll take you through the rest of how we get this fork leg apart. Okay, let's get these settings out. Okay, so compression damper first. So before I fully wind it out, I'm going to wind it in just to check how many clicks out from fully closed it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're 11 out from fully closed. Let me just record that. Okay, so now that we know what our setting is, we need to just fully wind that out till it hits the stop. There we go. Same again for the rebound. So we're just going to measure it into the closed position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 again. So let me just record that. Same again now, fully wind that out till it hits the stop. There we go. Next one to do is the preload. So all I'm going to do here is just count how many turns it takes to wind it out till it's fully loosened. What I'm going to do now is just unscrew that cap entirely. So all I've done there is just pull the spring down so that I can get the lock in, so I can access this nut here, and that nut will help me take off the preload cap. So all I need to do is get a spanner into there and then spanner on the top, and we can undo the preload cap. So that's the preload cap off, retaining nut, spacer washer, spring, and this is the rebound dampened drive tube. What I'm going to do now, just take the fork leg out and empty out the dirty oil. Okay, as I was emptying that, you would have seen a few little pieces come out. So we had the spacer tube, and this here is the rebound needle and spring that sits inside here, inside the cartridge assembly. Just goes down in that hole there. So we are just above 300 milliliters of fork oil in there, which is quite dark. It gets dirty like this because of all the components that rub against one another inside the fork legs, but in particular the spring that's rubbing against the side of the stanchion. So it's definitely worth doing regularly. That's a bit dirtier than I anticipated it would be, but more worryingly, we are just looking at that. We're about 80 mil down on oil, so it's probably been leaking more than I thought it had. The beauty of the construction methodology of the Ohlins is that you don't have to smash the fork leg apart like you do with the showers that I showed you. So we've got the dust seal here and the oil seals just behind it, so I'm just going to gently pop those out. Little retaining clip. Right, just applied a little bit of heat to the outer tube, just it makes the oil seal that little bit easier to get out. And you can see it was serviced properly because it had still got grease inside it, but that's the bit that's failed on me. Dust seals pretty dirty, and very dirty on the inside as well, so it's been letting dirt by. So it needed it. Sorry, and then I've taken out the little spacer washer that needs to go in there just so I can clean the seating out correctly before I put it all back together. What I'm going to do is just take the tube off and just spray some contact cleaner down inside it just to get rid of any of the old residual oil. Okay, replacement oil seal and dust seal to go on. What I'm going to just do is just load up some red rubber grease in the back parts of them. Heat up the tube slightly so I can just push them in gently, and then that'll be the outer tube ready, and then I'll just do the prep work on the inner tube, or sorry, the stanchion. Just before I put the dust seal in, I just thought I'd show you where the retaining ring goes in. So there's a little groove that just sits just above where the oil seal goes. So push the oil seal in, drop the little retaining ring in, and then you put the dust seal on top of that. Outer tube is done and ready assembled, ready to pop on. You just notice I used a little bit of Scotch-Brite just to get rid of the bug matter that was hard baked on the outside of a little bit of contact cleaner. All I'm going to do now is just give the stanchion a good clean, and just run a bit of 800 grit paper over it just to make sure there's no nicks or damage that could cause any problems for the new seals that are going on. Okay, so let's start getting this fork leg back together. So first off, just going to drop in spring spacer tube. Okay. then the rebound spring and adjust the foot. Then the tube. Okay, now I'm going to put the outer fork leg over the top of the stanchion, so I'll just loosen that off as I'm doing that. Right, you'd have just seen me cut off the tie wrap that I had as a suspension movement marker. That's because I need to measure the depth of the oil when it's in there for the air gap, and I need that to be in its correct position, which is the outer tube fully pushed down. So there are two measurements that you're concerned with when you're putting the oil into your front fork tube. It should take 400 millilitres volume of oil, but once you've got that in there, you need 155 millimetre air gap from the top to the fluid without the spring in. So what I'm going to do is measure out 400 ml of fluid, get it topped up, and we'll see where that puts us. Okay, so just use the syringe, 155 millimetre length on that tube. It's pulled out, I don't know, probably about 20 ml of oil. So we've now got the level correct in there. What we can do is put the last few pieces back in. If you haven't seen one of my videos before on rebuilding the shower forks, which I'll put the card somewhere up there, the reason why I'm moving that up and down when I fill in the oil is just getting all of the fork oil into the cartridge assembly, because when you first fill it up, that just moves up and down. You want it to have resistance going up and resistance going down, and you want it to be consistent as well, and it should just fall nice and gradually like that when it's fully done. Okay, let me get these components back in, and then we shall finish this fork leg off. Right, one fork leg back together. I've stuck on a turn of preload as that's what was on it originally. What I'm just going to do is put in the rebound and the compression damping settings that I removed, and that's good to go back on to the bike. And there we have it, one basic dust seal, oil seal and oil change on a set of Ohlins forks from a 1098S. All cleaned up, settings put back in exactly as I left them. I've done a quick bounce up and down on the tube to check it's okay and there's no oil leaking out, so that's job's a good one. I'm going to crack on with the second fork leg off camera because there's no point in filming the same operation twice. So I think we'll call that video a wrap here. All I've got to do now on the 1098S is clean it and put all the bodywork back on, and that will be getting listed for sale. So, okay, so that's basically how you do a seal change and oil change on a set of FG5110 forks from Ohlins that are typically found on the higher end bikes of the 1098 and 1198 era. So I think you can also find them on some of the Multistradas and some of the Monsters as well. I hope that was easy enough to follow and made sense. If you have any questions or comments, please stick them down below and I'll answer as quickly as possible. If you enjoyed the video, chuck us a like because it really helps with the algorithm on YouTube. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Plenty more content to come. Until the next video, which will be back on the Ducati ST2, I'll see you soon. Cheers then, bye.